Welcome back to Season 5 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible and powerful sobriety stories. We're here to show sobriety is possible, one story at a time. Let's go. What happens when you've made it on paper? Family, business success, a new house, the American dream. And yet you're quietly falling apart behind closed doors. Am I an alcoholic, problem drinking, binge drinking, or gray area drinker? These are all questions Shaz asked himself in private. At times, Shaz felt that alcohol was giving him an edge in life. This episode is about more than just quitting alcohol. It's about wanting happiness so badly that you'll let the old version of you die and discovering that the opposite of addiction isn't willpower, it's connection. And this is Shaz's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. Good to have you back, everyone. Happy 2026, our first episode. We're really setting the bar high for the podcast this year, kicking the year off with my buddy Shaz. You'll hear how we met and how we continue to connect to this day. This is an incredible story. Over 225 stories, I believe, here on the podcast, somewhere in and around there. This one really hit, as a lot of them do. This is where I see the most people struggle. This is it, is to where things are kind of going all right in a lot of different ways. And Shaz will walk us through his experience, but it was great to connect. Catch me at the end though, because I have a lot more thoughts. I just don't want to give away any of the story. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got my buddy Shaz with us. Shaz, thanks for joining. How are you?
My man. Looking forward to this. I'm doing fantastic, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. I feel like it's been a long time coming for us to collide on the podcast.
I think it's been a long time coming for us to meet. But yeah, collide is another word, sure.
So what was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, man. I am a product of the American dream. It's something I'm very proud of. My parents migrated from their homeland, which is Pakistan. They migrated here to the States in late 1970s, 1980s. And they had my brother, who he is the oldest sibling, and myself. So only two of us in the family, two brothers. We were grown up and born and raised in Chicago. So two things that I was raised with was you work your ass off for anything you need. And number two, the Chicago Bears. So those are two things in our life that we live by. That being said, my dad was an immigrant. My dad came to the country. He started off working in a factory. After he worked in a factory, he worked for a few rent-a-car companies. After the rent-a-car companies, he then owned in Chicago. We call it medallions. They're cabs, just say that. And then after that, he went on his way to open up businesses, which I'll get to later. But during this time, as my father was working, the one thing that was constant in his life was the lovely Miller Lite or whatever six-pack he needed in his fridge. So that was one constant thing that after work, because he did work hard, he used to very much drink probably a beer or a couple of beers, sometimes even a six-pack. I didn't really keep track when I was a kid because it didn't really make any sense to me. Yeah. But he did that. Him and his brother were both drinkers. So my dad and his younger brother were drinkers. They were both smokers as well. So that's one thing that I saw constantly as my life is the beer habits and the smoking habits.
Is that a thing in Pakistan too? Like would that have been what they brought over with them as far as you know, or something that was picked up here as you kind of work hard, play hard type idea?
So that's a great question. Prior to this, I'm going to say life experience, which I've had over the last 12 months, I felt they picked it up here. Okay. But I'm going to say this because I'm not going to spoil the ending. It is not true at all. It is something that is very common in Pakistan. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But yes, at that point in time, Brad, I felt that they picked it up in America. And I actually felt that they picked it up in America until a few months ago. So yeah. So that was that. And then, and it didn't really affect me in any way. I'll be honest with you, my mom and dad, my mom used to work for a fast food chain for our entire life as kids. Can I say fast food chains on here?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, I don't know if you could. I don't know if you could or not. But she used to actually work for my entire childhood in high school. She used to work for Popeyes. So she was for Popeyes, and my dad was obviously cab driver, factory, all that, rent a car. So they were just two regular people just trying to make the best for their kids. We grew up in a very small town in Chicago, not the highest income, a low income town with family, everyone there. that was that. And then really, when it comes to me and my drinking, that started in the high school days. So I will tell you that I was not a drinker in high school, but if I'm going to remember my first drink ever, it was a vodka and orange juice screwdriver, which was disgusting. And I think that's the only time I had it. And it was actually some really good premium vodka called Skoal vodka. That is not premium. That is the worst vodka you could have. But you got the sting done, right? The vodka was thrown in the orange juice. It got that sting done in my chest. I think what do they
Yeah.
call it? Did you grow hair in your chest, or whatever the hell the stupid things people say is? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was in high school then.
That was in high school. I'm gonna
Okay.
say, man, that had to be like freshman or sophomore year of high school. And after that first time, the only other time I remember drinking in high school was towards the end of my high school life, which was like junior year. I graduated high school a year early. So I just, not that this matters, but I'll tell you, is I went to summer school every summer because I didn't care so much to hang out with friends. And I said, I'm just going to go to summer school so I can get done with this high school thing early. So I graduated high school at the end of my junior year. But I remember I came back for my senior year just so I can walk with my friends. And the second time I drank was at a party where we were DJing at. And there was this thing called jungle juice. If you know what that is, it's like a bunch of fruit juice with, I think it's Everclear.
Yeah.
And yeah, and needless to say, Brett, I got shit faced. No shock there,
Mm.
right? I got shit faced. But I remember like in a very awkward way. It was like, this is cool. Like I got a little more confidence, a little more swag with the girls, and it was cool, right? But that was really the end of my high school. Really nothing there that I can say that had the signs of what was about to occur for the remainder of my life. Now we kind of
Yeah.
fast forward. Let's go to college. I go to college. During this time, I am under 21. So as I graduate high school and that, my brother becomes 21, and I actually go ahead and think of the ingenious idea is, hey, I'm going to take his ID because I look like my brother. So I now have my brother's fake ID and off to the races for drinking and bar hopping. So I am going to every bar, every place you can possibly think of because they think I'm 21. I look like my brother. It's a real ID, nothing to be harmed. So that's really, I think, when my drinking career, I think, started was when I was in
Yeah.
college. I wasn't 21. I went to all the restaurants. They have Dave and Buster's here. Where I went to college, across the street, there was a Dave and Buster's. So that's like an arcade place. And that's
Mm.
literally where we went for like lunch and dinner. We're like, hey, let's go there, play arcade games, have beer, and, come back to class, right? So yeah, so that's what I did for college. Once again, it wasn't an everyday thing. It was just maybe a once a week thing, if give or take. And
Yeah.
once I did graduate college, at that point, my father was still on his drinking ways, right? And he was getting older, and he lost his eyesight and his eye vision. Not that he went blind, he just couldn't see well. So he had to give up his taxi cab business. Because the way the cab businesses work in Chicago is you take your cab to Chicago and someone else drives your cabs for you. You make money off of that. And he couldn't do that anymore. And what we found is that we had to sell his medallions as cabs. And once we sold them, we took that money and we invested it into a liquor store that was literally where my mom used to work at Popeyes. It was right next door to in the same parking lot. So we bought that. We bought out. It was a tobacco store, and then we made it into a beer and wine, and then became a full-out liquor store.
Mm.
This is where the drinking went up a level, and at this time I was 21, above 21. It went up a level because now we have this liquor store and I have every single asset to me, right? Any of the new drinks coming out, any of the beers that are coming out, anything and everything coming out when it pertained to alcohol.
Mm.
So I don't. I'm not gonna say I got drunk every day, but almost every day there'd be a new liquor that I would just be trying. Right? Oh, this is cool. This is something neat, right? But it wasn't like to the point of like buzz. It was like I'll try it, whatever. What
Mm.
also was happening though is that during this time, in the I think 5 or 7 years we had it, every single Sunday we religiously would watch Chicago Bears football at my house, and guess who would bring all the liquor and the beer? This guy right here. So now I am the guy that's supplying for all the parties. Any party we go to, Shaz will take care of the beer and the wine. And it was. I mean, honestly, it was great, right? It was great because I was like, I was the cool guy that had the liquor store, right? When you're the
Mm.
cool guy that has the liquor store, everyone wants to be your friend. So yeah, that's where as I said, not drinking for the buzz point of view, but I will definitely say drinking from a socializing perspective daily was occurring because that was just a part of my business. I used to work there.
Yeah.
As that happened, towards the end of my dad decided that, hey, listen, business is business, but I think that I'm done and I'm ready to retire. So we decided to sell the liquor store. Right when we decided to sell the liquor store is when I met my wife. So when I met my wife, we were literally at the end of the liquor store era and we sold it. And then I met my wife. And right now, I truly believe when me and my wife met and I got married, that stage, everyone knows there's three stages of drinking. There's fun, fun with problems, and then problems. And I truly believe that when I met my wife, the fun stage came to an end because now my drinking was becoming a problem because someone else could see it.
Mm.
So my wife does not drink. So I'm going to be very transparent. My wife is not a drinker still to this day. So she just knows what she sees in me and what she might see in movies.
Yeah.
So,
How old were you when you and your wife met?
oh, yeah, I was 30. Yeah, I was 30 years old. Yeah. So liquor store was probably like 23 to the age of 30. And then, yeah, I was
Yeah.
30 when me and my wife met. Me and my wife, just full disclosure, we are an arranged marriage. So the reason, the way that worked is, and our arranged marriages aren't like, across the country. No. There was an aunt that she knew. I had an aunt that I knew. It was all through our religious community. And they said, hey, we think you two would be a great fit. And, obviously we
Mm.
met, we hit it off really well. I knew her family was, the funny thing is about this is that her family was very strict. You cannot marry a drinker. Her family
Mm.
said that straight up, said, do not marry a drinker because we see what's happened from our homeland and you should not marry a drinker. For whatever reason, her dad, who is still, I'm going to say, my biggest supporter to this day, and I call him my dad, but her dad literally said, I think this guy's different. I think this guy's different. Let's just give it a try. So,
Mm.
we dated for a while. Then I met her parents, and her dad said, I absolutely love this guy. Just marry him. She's like, I don't care what you do. You need to marry this guy. I don't know what happened, but this is what he said. So I got her dad's blessing. Very, very lucky to get that. And then, yeah, so, and then she migrated to Chicago. So she was living in Houston with all her family there. And she came back to Chicago with me. And there started our 5-year journey in Chicago. That 5-year journey, in the first year, she noticed a few things
Mm.
that was tell signs, but she said, you drink quicker than your friends. You drink more than your friends. And the other thing she noticed was that you black out. You go overboard when you drink sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Mm.
As a mind of someone that doesn't want to admit they have a problem, I said, I'm not the problem. You're the problem.
Mm.
So as we go through this back and forth for 1 year of where I'm not the problem, you're the problem, obviously the drinking keeps escalating, right? The drinking keeps escalating. In the back of my mind, I don't know why I felt that, you know what, as people get older, they control this thing. So I'll be able to control it when I get older, right? I mean, I'll be able to control it. I'm
Mm.
30 years old right now. When I become 35 or 40, I'll be able to control it and this will
Mm.
just be a blimp on the radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, 30, 31, 32. We're married. We're doing the traveling a lot, Brad. We're going out. There are many nights of blackout drinking. There's many nights of where I make a fool out of myself and embarrass us. But for whatever reason, I felt that the end was going to be near then. And I felt the end was going to be near. I'm like, you know what? We'll have kids and this will all stop. Because when you have kids,
Mm.
you stop, right?
Yeah.
So at 33, we had our first daughter. We had our first child, and I say this in a very funny way, but my wife, I say my wife and I, but my wife was pregnant for 3 years, and here's why I say that. I'm not going to fast forward to the story. You get pregnant, 9 months, you have your daughter. Then 6 months into, as she's feeding my daughter, breastfeeding, we get the surprise of a second daughter. So now you have 9 months of pregnancy and then another 9 months of feeding. So I tell everybody, my wife was pregnant for 3 years. Thank you, Steve. Thank you to yours truly. So that happened, but in that time, a lot of changes happened.
Mm.
So at 33, we have our first daughter, and I felt that things would just calm down from a drinking perspective. My career is going really well, and I'm like, things will just calm down. Like it will have to. It did for a few months. Like I just
Mm.
became a normal drinker, but then she always said this, that you go good for 2 or 3 months and then you completely fuck up and you go on a bender. And I'm like, well, I don't know what it is. There's something there. And I just felt, I'll figure it out. I'm good for 2 or 3 months and that should mean something. So it was like a reward system, right? I've been good for 2 or 3 months. I should have the right to go out there and get shit faced. During those 2 or 3 months, I want to make very clear, I was not dry. I was still drinking 3 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times a week, not getting drunk, but I was having a drink. I was having a glass of wine or two. And trust me, my glasses of wines were not what the CDC or whatever health board tells you. They were not 9 ounces, right? They
No.
were the Shaz portions.
Yeah.
Right?
Fishbowl
Yeah,
portion. One,
yeah,
one
yeah.
second there, 1 second there, Shaz. Going back to the thing, you share sort of a common theme there up until this point too of blacking out. I mean, what's the process like that, or was the process like that to kind of normalize it? Because I think if you look at somebody who like maybe quote unquote doesn't have a problem or is a normal drinker or whatever, however we want to shape that up, they're probably not experiencing blacking out. And then it seems like when I talk with people on the show or my own personal experience at times where it's like we can black out, not remember everything. It kind of hit us, but we're very easily to kind of dismiss it or move on from it, as to where I'm thinking if somebody didn't have a problem with it, with this, like that would probably really scare them. Like, how does that make sense? Like, how do we normalize the whole blacking out aspect of things to say, whoa, like something's going on here?
Yeah, so the way I normalized it was I had a conversation with her. As long as she was happy with my apology, we're good to go. That's it. I had to make sure she was good with it. Did I look inside of myself? Did I have a problem, Brett? At that point, no. I cared about how can I get to the next, because I knew in the back of my mind that, okay, this party was maybe a 4th of July blackout and I fucked up, right? Okay, I'm going to apologize to her. And in the back of my mind is like, I need to apologize and make it right because the next party is going to be Labor Day. And I have to get ready for Labor Day now, right? So I normalized it to make sure my partner was happy with me and content. And then I can move on to the next experience. And
Mm.
also, that apology was with a nice little, hey, I'll go dry for 7 days. I'll be good for 7 or 10 days. I don't need to drink. Just but in the back of my mind, I knew what the motive was, if that's the best way to
Mm.
put it. I knew what my motive was.
Yeah.
Versus,
Yeah.
yes, someone that does black out, I would agree. They should have that instinct of, hey, I think I might have a problem here.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing you said too really stood out is, of course, when you get older, right? To kind of pause on that. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people draw the line in the sand, right? If I get that job, maybe it's a relationship that they get into, they're like, if the other person doesn't want me drinking, of course I'm going to stop. Or the big one, right? Kids, or all these opportunities, which is always interesting to me to hear the stories on the podcast that it rarely ever seems to be something external that gets us to the spot where we want to quit. It's very easy, I think, to negotiate with ourselves of, like I'll keep it together for a bit, or hey, it's not as bad as it once was, or, all of these different things that we tell ourselves. So that is kind of another interesting type thing that can maybe keep stringing us along, maybe for longer than it needs to, is like, hey, if X happens, then I'll do Y.
well, the examples I had at that point in my life, my brother had 3 kids. My brother is a true definition of a normie. He is a normal drinker. So I looked
Mhm.
at and I'm like, we have the same bloodline. I'm going to have kids. He has 3 kids. He can handle it. He's a normie. Why can't that happen to me? Right? It's going to happen. The light bulb will go off. And even the people around me, Brad, they were not drinkers like I was. So when I am the person that's going overboard and I see everyone else around me being normies, quote unquote, I feel that the change has to happen eventually, right? I don't need to do it. It'll just naturally happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
example. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I believe we were at the point of where the babies were coming. The baby came. Sorry, the baby came. The oldest one came. After the oldest one came, really I then started to deal with the stressors of becoming a father, a husband, and a provider in a way of where I really, really went to alcohol. The stresses of sleep, being sleep deprived, the stresses of life, the stresses of your wife going through the emotional changes she's going through, right? With the pregnancies and everything, the stress of trying to provide for your family as well. I had no outlet to speak to anyone regarding what was on my mind because two things. Number one, when you are around people that you grow up with and you try to stress to them or let's just say vent to them the issues in life, I'll just say that there is a 1000% judgment zone that is created. And the reason why that's there is because they've grown up with you. So if I was going to tell one of my friends that, man, I'm really stressed about this kid dilemma or this dilemma, that entail would be someone that's listening, but listening not with a non judgmental mind or a mind of a like-minded person. They're judging it from the perspective of, okay, I think there's something weird, and they may go back and tell their wives or something that, man, I think something's wrong with Shaz or fucked up or something, right? So that's not what I needed. So what I did then is I just held back. I held back from the community and the folks I had, and I said, I'll keep providing. I'll keep buying the nice things to make sure everything on the outside looks nice. But the inside, I knew mentally that I was killing myself. Like, this is not right. But I kept thinking that, wait, my brother's a normie, my friends are normies, it's going to hit. So
Mm,
we are now at that stage of where my daughter is 1 year old, and we get hit with the news that we are having a second baby along the way.
mm,
Once we had that news, I saw the writing on the wall that the way our life was and how complex and hectic it was, there's no way that we can do this without help. And all of our help I knew was in Texas. So at that point in time, I had a conversation with her, and we agreed that we are not going to get the support we need in Chicago, and we agreed to move to Texas. And that is where the end of my Chicago drinking career ended, my Hall of Fame drinking career then. But my Hall of Fame drinking career in Texas was just starting. So that
mm,
Hall of Fame career started. We moved from Texas, we moved to the lovely city of Austin. Right away, if you know anything about Austin, it is a drinking town. That's probably the first thing anyone will tell you about Austin, that lots of drinking. It is the home of Tito's vodka. So obviously, we come to Austin, we get there. I accepted a job with another organization. We move our family there, and we have our second daughter there in Austin, Texas. That time, moving from a different state of 35 years of life, going to Austin, getting a rental property, and then also building our house there in Austin as well. A lot of shifting. We moved 3 times in 2 years in Austin.
mm,
That's because the kids and everything. And that just it was lots of drinking. Now, was it every day? I don't know the statistics, but I'm gonna say when I drank bread, I drank for definitely a buzz or definitely for something else in a buzz to make sure I forget about the stresses of life. And that happened pretty much all the way until 2020. So if anyone remembers, in 2020, there's this thing called the pandemic that hit. I'm gonna just backtrack for a second. December 31st, 2019, our house was built in Austin. So when we built our house in Austin, it was a very proud moment. And then 90 days after that, the pandemic hit. So if anyone knows about a house in anywhere you go, you have to put a down payment down. And that down payment's a big chunk of money. So we put a big chunk of money down on this new house, and we were loving it. And literally, when the pandemic hit, I was furloughed from my job.
mm,
So when I was furloughed, because we all know about that time, we didn't know what was going to happen in the world, and the pandemic was just nuts. So when I was furloughed, this is today what I think, but the day I was furloughed from my organization, I hung up the phone, and I believe that is when I made a deal with God because of the fact that I put so much money into this house and this lifestyle in Austin. I made a deal with God that, God, you're really, really stressing me. I need you to give me everything I need financially and materialistically for my family and my kids, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. And
mm.
the very next day in the morning, I picked up the phone, and the very first phone call I made for the first startup I had was the same first phone call I made when I decided to get sober. And it's actually a mutual friend of ours. His name is Keith. So Keith is the very first phone call I made, and after that, I'll just just we'll keep it simple. The rest is history when it comes to materialistic and financial success. Uh, After that occurred, all the materialistic and financial success God gave me. But he gave me that with a caveat. I'm going to give you this thing that your dad couldn't figure out, that maybe you can't figure out, but I'm going to give this to you. I should rewind for a second about my father. Let me just take that back because I know I went ahead. My father was a functioning alcoholic for his entire life. He provided for his family. But when my father passed away, he was a functioning alcoholic, but he tried his best, right? He did the best he could. He provided. I think he raised a pretty good set of kids, a wife that lives, a mother that lives right next to me. So he did the best he could, but he never figured out his thing. I'm just going to be real with you. He didn't figure out his thing. And my mom and him also had struggles with alcohol. My mom was trying to tell him to quit, and he didn't. So fast forward to now, I'm in Austin. I get all the materialistic success I wanted. But God says, I'm going to give you the thing I gave to your dad and he couldn't figure out. So now I have this thing, which I don't know I have a thing, right? Now my drinking bread is every day. If you remember the pandemic, I believe that just drink every day started because you didn't go anywhere. Remember, you're stuck at home. Just drink.
Yeah.
What are you going to do tomorrow? We'll be stuck with the kids. Drink. What are you going to do the day after? You're stuck with the kids. Drink. All right. Well, the liquor stores were thriving, I'm sure, during this time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I did. I'm going to say it was an everyday habit. Drink to get drunk. I'm not sure, but definitely drink to get a buzz because I want to forget about how bored life is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the pandemic gave to me. Now, during this time, there's many, many events, that we go through. And as the world started getting back to normal, my drinking did not get back to normal. So that it's what is it? The cat is out of the bag, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So you gave me all of the freedom to drink every day, and no fault of my wife. Our entire neighborhood is having block parties of drinking, so it was a normal thing. I actually give her more credit that she didn't start drinking during this time. And she was, yeah, and so our neighborhood, so everything was normal then, but still this point, my wife tells me at this point during the pandemic, she's like, why do you drink more than everybody? She always
Mm-hmm.
keeps asking that question. She's like, why are you drinking more than everybody? Why are you the one that's on like your third or fourth drink and someone else is on their first drink? So
Mm-hmm.
now there's a judgment area of how I'm drinking. So what happens then? I do what in turn what any sophisticated drinker would do. I start drinking quicker and more sneaky, right? So I'm going to do some sneaky drinks. So she thinks I'm only on my first drink, but I might be on my third drink, right? Oh, my cup of Jack and Coke might have, I know we have this on video, my cup of Jack and Coke might have this much Jack with this much Coke versus a normal one. But hey, it's still Jack and Coke, right? It's my first drink, it's still Jack and Coke. So mathematically, one equals one, right?
Yeah.
So that is where that went. So drinking escalated, normalized drinking escalated, and blackouts and just issues with my wife and I from just heated discussions and everything occurred. At this point in time, I know that I need this to cope with life. I need this friend of mine, alcohol, to cope with life, right? I am not thinking about, I'm putting my kids through, whatever system they have for knowledge or education. It's like a daycare, whatever, right? I have my wife who she's working part time. I'm providing for the family, right? I'm paying the bills. I'm doing all of this. The startup's doing very, very well and all this, right? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why should I cut down? Technically, if you look at it, since the startup has started and my drinking has escalated, both have gotten great. So if I quit drinking, maybe, oh my God, I might lose everything I got financially and materialistically. I need that. So I
Mm-hmm.
convince myself that no, I need to keep drinking because that's how I become more personable to people. So
Mm-hmm.
now the drinking's every day and all that. The issues start escalating, and my wife and I sit in bed one day, and she says, I cannot do this anymore with your drinking. And I knew the ultimatum was going to come, but before she even gave me the ultimatum, I said, you know what? I think we need to move to Houston. And she's like, okay, how did that come up? I'm like, I just think there's a reason why I said that to her, and she knows it today, but I'll tell, I'll say it now anyway. The reason why I told her, let's just move back next to your parents in Houston is because I truly believed in my mind that my wife would not let me drink the way I wanted to drink. So if we move to Houston and we end up separating, I know she'll have the support of her family and they can raise the kids and I can go along my way of drinking. That's literally what my mindset was. It's like I can live life the way I wanted to live and she can live life the way she wants to live. I'll just probably get like a place nearby so I can visit the kids and just be a normal dude, right? Don't need to be a present father. I got our family for that. That's exactly what I'll do. This was literally my mindset as we moved to Houston.
Mm.
Um, we moved to Houston about 3 years ago. So now we're at the stages of the fun stage ended in Chicago. The fun with problems ended in Austin. And the problems were definitely getting more towards it. We come to Houston, and this is where the problem stage occurs. So we come to Houston, and we purposely built this house that I'm sitting in right now. We built this house because her entire family is on the same street that I live on. And I'm just
Mm.
going to pretty much say this out loud. Is I purposely built this house and I got this land because I knew that this marriage was not going to work out. And I felt that I need to go back to my drinking ways because that's the only way I'm going to be financially successful. The only way this guy's going to be financially successful is he can do what he does to make sure his startups are doing great and all that's fine. Right? I can support the kids. You know what?
Mm.
There is no if, ands, or buts about it. So we moved here to Houston. We live down the street from her parents. Now the problems drinking starts is where all of my drinking is happening with a solo person, me, myself, and I. So all of my drinking now is happening when I'm in the car, when I want, if me and my wife get into an argument, I can just sneak out to the garage and go have a drink. I always point this way. I can sneak out there. I can have my drink there, right? Drinking, I can say White Claws. Having my White Claws at any point in time because that one doesn't smell as much as beer. So now it's pretty much sneaking all day, every day to keep drinking, right? Just to make sure that I don't need to put up with this conversation and cope with life. I'm raising kids. I'm providing for my family. You should be happy. I should be happy. We're both not happy. So at this point in time, we're both not happy. And I get a phone call from my mom. My mom's still in Chicago, by the way, at that point. And she calls
Mm.
me and says, "Hey, I want to move down by you." And I get the task of shifting my mom after 50 years in Chicago to shift her next to me in Houston. So we go, my mom comes to visit me here, and this is the weekend of Thanksgiving. This is the weekend of Thanksgiving 2024. We go around, we go to see some houses. My mother is very much stuck in her ways. Oh, just a note to the viewership. My mother does not drink. We go along to see houses, and every single house we go to, she has an issue with it. Also, every time she has an issue with the house, I stop by the gas station, I get a drink. I go get a White Claw. Cool. Let's go visit house number two. This is this. Oh, I don't like this is this. Okay, I stop by the gas station, I get another drink. Go to 5 houses, I've had 5 drinks. So clearly, if anyone knows anything about alcohol, the more you drink, the more agitated you can also get as well. And the more you can let loose with your language. Let's just say that. As the night comes to an end, we come back to my house. My wife is there with my mom, and my mom is just venting about how she didn't like every property, this, and this. I, for whatever reason, just go off. And as I go off, I am told to leave the house. And as I leave the house, this is the memory that stays in my head as my rock bottom. I leave the house and I look at what my problem has done to everything around me. My kids are in their room sleeping, and people are afraid the kids are going to hear me yelling. My wife is at the verge of tears and just telling me to leave the house because I made an embarrassment for my mom with her. My mom and my wife now are having a conversation. In some way, shape, or form, my mother's thinking my wife has enabled this drinking habit of mine, which she has not, because I'm the one sneaking it, right? I'm the one sneaking around drinking. My wife's like, what the fuck is going on?
Mm.
Um, I see, like, it's a complete shit show. Let's just say that. My drinking has gotten to the point of a shit show, and I'm seeing this. So I leave the house. The very next day, a bearded Canadian man snuck into my algorithm. I don't know if you know this guy. His name is Brad.
I've seen him around. I've seen him around.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be very transparent. So prior to that, I was sober curious. I was looking at, I knew I had a problem, Brad. I'm going to make this, I knew there was a problem. I didn't know what it was. Because I think in the society we live in, was I a binge drinker? Was I a gray area drinker? Was I an alcoholic? Was it the alcoholism factor? Like, I didn't know what I knew. So I was going through the sober curious thing on Instagram, and that's probably how he snuck into my algorithm, right? But what I didn't like about it was that there were certain people out there, and I don't know names clearly, but certain people would try to promote, oh, if you are a high functioning, high income professional, I can help you with alcohol. Well, it doesn't seem like, that didn't seem right to me. That seemed like more of a sales pitch than I want to help you. Then there was ones that people that say that I put you through hypnotism, if I can say it correctly.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. And I also knew that I wasn't meant for AA. I do have a story about AA in this timeline, so it's going to come up soon. I also knew I wasn't meant for rehab. I know you and I have discussed this, that I just didn't know if that would be the answer either. I just didn't know what the answer was. What I did know, though, for a fact, was when I spoke to a therapist, because I did speak to a therapist in the past, what I did not get was, okay, I'm going to tell you what I've done. These blackout drinkings, this day drinkings, drinking, doing X, Y, Z. I always say this, I had drink at every single event, either drunk, hungover, or buzzed. And what I got from a therapist was, okay, well, let's try to fix that. I'm like, no, that's not what I want. What I want is someone to tell me that they've done what I've done. And I didn't know that. And that's when I sent a message to you and Brad. I'm going to say probably within a matter of 24 hours, way less than that. You, as a human, not your robot, Brad as a human, responded back to me and we set up a conversation. Now, that was November 21st, and December 26th, we're going to get to that in a second, is my day one. So I want to make it clear, there was 35 days of where there was slips, slopes, and everything you can think of in between that got me to my day one. And that was with me speaking to you, Brad. Do you remember the first time we spoke?
Dude, like it was yesterday.
What were your thoughts about that?
Man, I have so many. Like, I mean, if I can, be 100% honest, it was interesting. I mean, you're a fast talker, right? So you're kind of covering all this stuff. And I remember leaving that first time we connected, and I was thinking to myself, like, man, I could be off, but I think that this guy's quote unquote problem is a lot bigger than he realizes or he's willing to share about right now. But I thought it was a great first step. I mean, you were kind of touching on sort of that, secretive element of the drinking, which I think is a big red flag for how serious things become. Because before we get secretive, you shared, right? You have people around you mentioning something. And for people around you to be mentioning something, there's probably, something there. I mean, I thought it was great. I always share the story too, where you told me, I don't know it word for word, but Shaz was like, if this doesn't work, I won't hire you again. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to, but I think that that's what's so interesting about this whole journey is like, where do we put the bar for success? Where do we put the bar for, is this working or not working? And I think your story is a perfect example of, in one way or another, how most people's story goes is you have one intervention or you have one conversation or you read one book. It's not based completely on that you quit drinking from that point forward. I think that what that did was give you kind of the opportunity to push the snowball down the hill. It took some time to build up and gather steam, but you also were willing to do stuff. You were just like, I was like, yeah, we have this community. I think like, if you want to join that, do it. I mean, I don't tell anybody what to do that I work with. I said, hey, that's an opportunity for you. I said, here's some books. I'll send you some more books of people that I look up to and have enjoyed over the years. And maybe that could give you some more information. I think those early days for you were kind of gathering intel of you're in that spot. So many people find themselves, right, Shaz, about you're on track in so many areas of your life. And the shame that you're feeling inside is eating you alive. But it's hard to comprehend because things around you are going so well. I mean, you're moving into this other house and you're earning money and your startup's doing great and things are, decent, right? Things are good, but on the inside, you're really struggling. So, I mean, that's sort of like the short version of, our first connection.
Yeah, no. And the reason why I bring that up as well is that the one thing I got from our first connection is that the same thing. So after I was done speaking to you, I got a very non-judgmental approach. And the approach I got from you was more, I can't say welcome me like, yeah, join, because you didn't force me to in any way. But you're like, yeah, if you want to, do it. But, just want to let you know that this is, and you gave me a little bit of snippet of your experience, not so much, but a little bit of snippet. And I'm like, this is that like-minded individual conversation, right? So then when I hung up or ended the meeting with you, I texted the first person to text was the same guy I texted on my first startup. So I knew about Keith, that Keith was someone that had a drinking issue in the past. I didn't know what to expect, but because I got such a good vibe from what you did, Brad, and just because you were not judging, I sent Keith the text that, Keith, I think I got a problem, man. And I think it's beyond just me being a social drinker or drinking too much. And I didn't know what to expect, but when Keith responded back to me, and I remember this, and Keith sent me a screenshot of it too, Keith said that, congratulations, this is a huge first step. He's like, I want you to set up a time and let's have a conversation. The very next day, me and Keith got on a Zoom call, a Zoom meeting, just to talk to him. And once again, this is the day number 2 of 2 of a like-minded individual I'm speaking to. So now the light is kind of starting to turn on, right? The light bulb's not there. I'm like, wait, I felt really good when I talked to Brad. I felt really good when I talked to Keith, right? And both of you and I don't know about, I'm going to make the assumption, you and Keith both have not gone to AA. So now I'm like, wait, these guys both did not go to AA or follow the steps, and this is good. That being said, I still had 35 days of where I had slips, right? So I didn't buy into it. I still thought that, okay, I feel good. Maybe I can now moderate the drinking. I can now moderate the drinking because I'm getting what's inside of me out. So now that that's out, I can go ahead and take in alcohol again because I'm moderating it, right?
Yeah.
No, that is not true, because what essentially I was learning in those 35 days is, as I was joining your meetings, Brad, I was joining your community. I was talking to other folks that had similar problems. I wasn't enjoying drinking. And slowly over those next 35 days, I did not realize it, but there was a funeral that was occurring of my old me. Every time I joined your community, I looked at your board. I saw people thriving in sobriety. And I'm like, man, these people are so fucking happy. Like, this has to be fake. I think I even told you that the first time I saw you. I'm like, why are these fucking sober people so happy? Like, these people have to stop, like, just smiling and be happy. Like, just be mad about life. And I was like, okay. And slowly but surely, in those 35 days, Christmas came. In Christmas, my brother, he brought over a nice bottle of wine, which was around, I think it was like about $100. And him and I enjoyed drinking this one specific bottle of wine. But during this time, Brett, I was joining your community. I was I was feeling everyone's vibes. And we had that bottle of wine. I had a glass, and this was like around midnight, like 11 p.m. actually. I had it and I drank it, and I took my last sip, and I'm like, I don't think I like this anymore. I just don't know why. And I didn't know it then. I fell asleep that night, and December 26, 2024 was my day 1. And I just woke up saying that, all right, God. And I remember sleeping, and I said, all right, God, you gave me everything materialistically, financially, take it away. I don't want any of this anymore. Give me back 1% of just what happiness is. Because every day since that day I made a deal with you for materialistic success during the pandemic, I've had 0 days of happiness. So take it all away. And God said that night, all right, good deal. Let's see how this goes. This is where I truly believe that day 1 started, of where if you want a person to change, the person needs to want it. I wanted happiness so bad. I did not care about anything when it came to material. And maybe that's the light bulb, right? It was like, I need to stop thinking about what you show to society and internally just understand what that happiness meant. My first month I did, the only people knew that I was going through my first 2 months until day 60 was just our community. I joined the Sober Motivation community. I said, I'm going to try this because I need to try anything, because I was just desperate to understand happiness. I joined the Sober Motivation community, and within the first day, I just heard my story from everybody, from the Christines of the world to the Melissas, to, of course, someone who is my brother from another mother, Gary, Gary is 18 days ahead of me in sobriety. Gary he's someone that he is my brother. I tell this to everybody, and Christine's my sister, Melissa's my sister, you're my brother, Josh, there's so many people I can't say anything, but these are people I didn't know. And day one, I raised my hand. I think you asked me to introduce myself. I introduced myself, and there was no judgment. And then I just hear people saying their stories on what they used to do on a weekend and where they are. And I'm like, I want that, man. And every day I showed up at 8 a.m. in the morning, Central Time, and I showed up at 7 p.m. I made it like just a ritual. Like, I want what they have. And the only thing I know they're doing is that they're just showing up. That's all I know. I don't know what else they're doing in their life. But whatever they're doing, if they have a bad day, they talk about it. They have a good day, they talk about it. They turn on their camera and they talk about it. That's all I know. And every time I spoke, that happiness percentage went up. Like, all right, cool. So at the end of December 2024, my second startup had its worst financial year. And I knew why it was, because I was not present. So in January, the first obstacle came is around January 7th. I had a meeting with a client, and all of my meetings I've had to this point, I've come buzzed because I need to loosen up, right? I need to loosen up. That's how I was. Yeah. This was my first ever stand-up meeting with a pretty large audience. And after that phone call was done, the client called me and said, you just don't seem like you're there. And this is the first obstacle I came to sober. And the first feedback I get after, I think I was like 12 days sober, is you don't seem like you're all there. So I hung up the phone, like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm like, this is supposed to better me. And the only thing I could do is sit on my hands and wait till 7 p.m. to tell the group this. And something happened is when I told the group what happened, I felt better. And I said, okay, things are going to be okay. Things are going to be all right. I don't know what the hell that means, but I just knew that. During the end of my first month, I picked up my first book, which was This Naked Mind. I picked up that book, and it changed my life when it gave me the rewiring format. So now I'm understanding the mental aspects of drinking. Okay, cool. I'm coming to the meetings. I'm doing the quit lit, right? I'm doing what we're supposed to do. So now we go to month number 2. And in month number 2, I go to my second book. I also plan a trip to go to Disney World. And if anyone knows about Disney World is not the happiest place on earth. I want to make it very clear. For kids, whatever, for parents, it's not the happiest place on earth. So we get on a plane to go to Disney. But before we get on a plane to go to Disney, I open a book called We Are the Luckiest. So we get on a plane to go to Disney, and I open up a book called We Are the Luckiest. When I open up the book of We Are the Luckiest, this is where the universe is saying something. In the book We Are the Luckiest, the very first sentence of the book is a date of where the author wakes up blacked out, drunk in her hotel room. That date is my birthday. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. This is weird. The very first sentence, that date, if you want to know, is my birthday. I'm like, this is weird. So I picked up the book. I started reading it as we boarded the flight. When we came back from Disney 4 days later, I was complete with the book because I read the entire book. So now 2 things have happened. I have the scientific aspect to drinking with This Naked Mind. I have a woman's perspective from We Are the Luckiest. Okay? I don't think I want to drink again, but maybe. And I'm still joining the meetings. So the third month, we go to Chicago. And this is where my Hall of Fame drinking career started. We get on there, and you recommend a book from a man's perspective. And it's my friend, Todd McKinney, your friend, Todd McKinney, of the book I Didn't Believe It Either. So I pick up the book, and I open it. His relationship to his Iowa Hawkeyes is my relationship to my beloved Chicago Bears. It's literally like, I mean, I know I didn't go to Iowa College, but there's a parallel there. It's a very similar parallel. So that now changed my life. I go to Chicago. We have a great time. We went to Chicago because my mom was moving back with us to Texas. She moves down the street. She lives down the street. And after I read his book, we went to a party where most people were drinking. I saw the faces of a hangover the day after. We landed back in Chicago. I knew in my mind that my drinking career was getting close to, like, I don't think I want to drink again. Okay? Also at 2 to 3 months, my wife, me, and the kids, we started celebrating. Hey, daddy got to 2 months. Hey, daddy got to 3 months. So I'm like, this feels cool. Like they're outside writing on chalk, 3 months. What does it mean, daddy? And they still don't know what sober means. But I'm like, yeah, 3 months. Just write 3 months. Yeah, I'm like, just write it, right? Get your friends together, write it out there. And they loved it. I'm like, man, this is cool. And then they start saying, well, daddy, when do we do 4 months? I'm like, oh shit, now I have to be committed to this. I'm like, gosh. I'm like, well, I'm like, we'll do it but I still wasn't confident. I'm like, we'll do it like maybe around the end of the month. On the fourth month, there was a share that changed my life. So there's this shame aspect of drinking, like you said, Brad. The shame aspect comes in. And there was a certain moment in my mind of where there was money, a piggy bank, and alcohol involved. And that shameful moment, I could not get out of my head or my system, the thought. Literally that week, Ryan, he is someone that has been on your podcast. He shared my exact event that he recollected as well in his life. And what shocked me was not the fact that I'm like, Ryan, how do you know what I did? Because you don't even know me. Other people started putting comments in the chats of similar things they've done. So now I'm like, wait, I'm not broken. I'm not broken. Yeah, I may be special or unique, but I'm not broken. And that, I will tell you, Brad, after that share, I opened up to your community more than ever before. There was a certain wall prior to that, but now it just went away. Because I'm like, if I'm going to conquer this thing called happiness and sobriety, I need to let those guards down, open up the camera and just share. And that's what happened after that. And that was the miracle, I think, on the fourth month. In the fifth month, it was another challenge that came my way. That challenge that came my way is I joined a basketball league with a bunch of friends of mine. The very first game my kids saw me play, Daddy lost by 20 points. I was not very happy. I was like, I've done 5 months of sobriety to get to this point. My kids, my daughter's into basketball, and Daddy gets his ass embarrassed, lost by 20 points. I told my wife to take the kids home, and I got in my car, and I drove my car. And the one route in my drinking days, there was a specific gas station I used to go to buy my White Claws. That was a multiple days thing. And all of us that have gone through drinking had that certain liquor store, certain bar, certain gas station we always pass by. I went by this gas station and I was really upset. And on the way to that gas station, I was talking to God saying, why did you do this? You did not have to do this to me. We can do the financial issues, whatever you want. You can throw some stuff at me that way, but why did you have to do this where this hurt me? Because in front of my kids, I got embarrassed. So I went to the gas station. I parked my car. I went inside the gas station and I saw there was two options. There was a beer cooler and there was a coffee machine. I walked straight in. I got the cup of coffee, went to the register, got in the car. The reason why that occurred is because if I went to the cooler and grabbed that White Claw and I went to the counter, I went to the car and I drank it, the very next morning at 8 a.m., I would have to show my face to the people that have supported me and tell them that I couldn't handle a basketball loss for a game that's not even meaningful, but I couldn't handle that, and that's why I had to drink. If that truly happened, I don't believe the work I put in was right. I got the cup of coffee, I came back in the car, and guess what? The very next morning I did show up and I told them what happened, and I got nothing but support, nothing but love. I'm going to fast forward to the end of the story. 5 weeks later, we got in the playoffs. We see the same team in the second round, the round of, the Final Four. We see that same team, the undefeated team that beat us by 20 points. I went to the corner and I told God again, I'm like, listen, you know what happened the first time. I'm going to show up. That's why I said, I'm going to show up like I've been doing it. Let's just see what happens. That day, that team that was undefeated went home with their first loss, and we went on to the finals and got second place in the tournament. So on the way back from this tournament, I said, all right, God, this is cool. I get it now. I think I get it. And I will tell you, after that day, I knew in the back of my mind I was never going to touch alcohol again. Because that happiness, and my kids saw it too. The kids saw the victory. They were so happy. Like, that's happiness, man. Yeah, and that's what happened in month 5. as we get over it a little bit more, is I had a buddy of mine, a business partner of mine. This is where a little bit more of the AA aspect comes in. I had a buddy of mine. Every time I met him, he would never drink. The first time he drank with me was in my 6th month. I met him at a restaurant and I said, I'll take a Heineken Zero. And this business partner of mine said, oh, I'll take a Heineken Zero as well. And I said, wait, you drink Heineken Zero? You never told me this. He pulls out his AA coin. He's had 15 years of sobriety at AA. Off to the moon. Yeah, it was like, wait, what? So it was, once again, he pulls out the coin and we just have a conversation about life. Business has never been better, but him being a partner, I understand why he was so calm during the storm of December when it was our worst year. He was so calm and I wasn't. And now it's just off to the moon. He's still in Austin. He's a great guy. He is a great guy. Month number 6, and the one thing I said about sobriety, I think I didn't bring this up in this meeting, but Brad, you know about this, is that I wanted to do everything I would do in a normal drinking year. I wanted to do it sober. And I really wanted to come back to see, is anything I do in life better with a drink? So month number 6, no different. Hey, let's go to Mexico, where many, many events and many all-inclusive mistakes have occurred. We went to Mexico. We conquered that. I just had a bunch of Heineken Zeros. I had the best time of my life ever. I could not say there was anything alcohol would help there. Month number 7 is where I used the community in a different way. It was a family member's birthday. It was at my house. It was very stressful. And I couldn't vent to my family about this member because there's a judgment there. As I said earlier in ours, there's going to be a judgment if you vent to someone. What I did, simply picked up the phone and I called Christine from our community. I sent her a text saying, hey, listen, I'm really stressed. This is what's happening. I just don't know how to handle it. Within a matter of literally 5 minutes, I get voice message over voice message from her, just showing her love and support. I keep saying this to myself. It's like, these people don't know me, but no, they do know me. They never met me. But these people are the ones that are showing up every morning at 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. listening to me just talk about life. So now this is where it transitions from this is about just don't drink today, right? That's still the goal. Just don't drink today. But now it's about life and how you cope with life on life's terms. And when you have people like the Christines, the Garys, the Melissas, the Joshes of the world, the list goes on. I have a toolbox unlike any other because I have them. And you as well, Brad, right? I've talked to you about this. Yeah, and then month number 8, I go to take coaching on as a lesson. The first person I text is Christine. Her husband's a basketball coach. He sends me paragraphs over paragraphs on how to coach my girls. And we end up getting 3rd place as my first ever coaching experience. Month number 10 is once again where the spiritual awakening happened. Month number 10, so the same business partner that I met in month 6 that said he had 15 years of AA, he sent me the big book for me to read. And he said, I don't want you to go, I just want you to read it. He's like, you're on this really big reading thing, read the big book. So I read the big book, and after I was done reading the big book, I reached out in our community. I said, I would really like to speak to a group of AA folks, just because there's, it might not be the best for people from my ethnic background. Christine was nice enough to send me AA's email address. I emailed AA with my 2 cents and my thoughts, and they said, hey, we think that it would be great for you to virtually speak at a AA meeting for a group of people in Pakistan. I accepted the invite, and on month 10, I was a virtual speaker for a group of folks in Pakistan, and I told them about where my dad came from, what I know, and what shocked me at the end of that was how my story is just similar to their story. Alcohol has no boundaries. It does not matter where you're from, where you are, the addiction is real and it is there. And that's where, Brad, you asked earlier, is it relevant like in Pakistan? I did not know until that. It is very well relevant in live. So yeah, that was that one. And then obviously month 10, month 11, and month 12 were just kind of like my wrap-ups to get to that 1 year. And yeah, you saw how emotional I was when I got to that 1 year. But today I can honestly say I found happiness, but what I found is a family. Because of this community, the sober motivation community, what you guys have given me in peace, there's not a monetary amount that can ever match up to that, man. I love you for that, buddy.
Yeah, dude, same. I mean, I have a million different questions that I could ask you. I mean, your whole life, what I take away, obviously, is a speck of sand on a big, vast never ending beach, right? So I don't know everything, and we have connected a lot, over this year. But to me, my big takeaways too is your initial goal of what you mentioned there was happiness and not necessarily sobriety. But I think that, whether you knew on the surface or somewhere inside that to get to that happiness and joy of life, that alcohol was not going to be able to be part of the equation. And I see too, as somebody who kept it all in, fear of judgment of what others might think. And I don't know, man, just to see you, see how you've grown. Like, I got to be honest with you. I never thought you would be one to be interested to share a story. Like when we started having that conversation, I was like, dude, like this was when we first met. I was like, I think this will work for this guy. Like, I think he's smart enough that he'll bring the right people into his life, but I think it will be a small, secretive circle. I don't think that he'll go beyond that because of maybe the potentials of a fallout one way or another. So that has blown me away, man.
No, and you're 1000% right. And I think the reason why that changed was, number one, that business partner experience where he pulled out his AA coin. And another one I didn't bring up was at month 9, month 10, at 2 a.m. in the morning, I landed from a business meeting from Portland. And I was picked up in an Uber car. In the Uber car, I was picked up and I was tired. But this gentleman who was the driver just wanted to talk. I'm like, that's fine, man. I'll just talk, right? It's an hour drive back. I was trying not to be rude. I was just trying not to be rude because I have a different perspective. If it was past me, I would have just been very rude and just put my AirPods on. Maybe he wanted to share. He wanted to listen. It was 2 a.m. in the morning for him. I listened. I talked to him. And this is where it all changed too. And I didn't say this story. I don't think I've ever even said this group. He said that there's a good vibe about you, man. He's like, can I just ask you what you do? And I didn't really tell him, like, yeah, so I was like, oh. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, you have a really good vibe and sharing. I was like, yeah. And I did tell him then. It came into, yeah, man, I made a pretty big life change. I see life differently. He's like, oh, was it health related? I'm like, kinda. He's like, oh, if you don't mind me asking, what was it? I'm like, I decided to get sober. And he said, oh, I'm an AA member for 7 years now. And he pulled out his coin. And I'm like, all right, this is crazy. 2 a.m. in the morning, you're picking me up in an Uber and you pull out an AA coin for 7 years. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So then as we get closer to my house, he says to me, hey, would it be all right if we prayed? I'm like, okay. This also goes into another aspect. I'm like, all right. And he started praying. And I thought it was amazing. I also realized at that point that I have two different parallels in my life as well. I have a religion parallel, which I have a community, which is a great community. But then my spiritual parallel is different, and it's okay. Page number 289 of the big book tells you that. I don't need to get into it, but if anyone's interested, read page 289. You'll see the religious and spiritual paths are different and why. But that is what also made the light bulb go off. So whatever your journey is, his journey that day was to be my Uber driver at 2 a.m. And gosh, was that amazing. And obviously the rest is history. So that's what really kind of got me into this as well, Brad. From the AA talk I did for that group in Pakistan to this was like, these people are coming into my life and telling me this for a reason, I believe. And that's where it kind of got me.
Yeah. And now, it's flipped over to you to share with other people and maybe just draw back on too when you were struggling and felt like you had nowhere to share it without potentially feeling like judged or this was something morally wrong with you. Or you mentioned earlier sort of brokenness, like maybe I'm broken. And I think that's literally like the biggest message I hope people take away from, the podcast in general is just like, hey, it's just everyday folks out there. We got wrapped up in this thing, but there's a beautiful life on the other side of it. If we come together and we let other people in, that seems like to be a big part when the doors kind of blew off the hinges for you is when you really opened up at a level that maybe you never had your entire life.
I will tell you this right now, that many times my wife and even my brother would say, why don't you go talk to this person, like a family member? Why don't you go talk to this person? Just vent to them. The issue with that is when you vent to someone that has a history or knows you, in my opinion, it's not the same as a like-minded individual. And what I got in the sober community in the sober motivation community, but really the entire sober community, was like-minded individuals that think like me. I'm not broken. I am special. I am unique. Trust me, we do not think the same as normal people. I know that today, right? But everyone has a thing. I make it very clear. Just because we cannot be the normies of drinkers, do not think that you are broken, because I want to promise you that there's someone else out there that has a thing that they are trying to conquer, or they don't know how to conquer it. I did not know I had a thing until, what was it, like December 26, 2024, when I woke up.
Mm.
And then I realized that I need to conquer this thing. The light bulb goes off. Everyone's dealing with their own thing, and how they go about it is their own way. I know the only way today that this thing that I can conquer now is if I keep showing up to the community, because the people are like-minded individuals.
Yeah. And it's so interesting too how, I mean, you jumped in fairly quick, right? How were you able to really do that? Because I'm always curious with that too, because I'll field, hundreds of messages and people will say, hey, what do I do? And I'm like, I mean, come and check out the community. And then, nothing. How were you able to really just move on that in the moment to say, okay, like I met this weird bearded guy off Instagram and he's saying, join this community. And like, this is wild. Like, why would you even do that?
I didn't call you a weird bearded guy. I just called you a bearded Canadian. I want to make that clear, right? Don't you separate both? But okay, I will say this. The reason why that was, Brad, is I truly was at the end of my grips with as far as what can I do. And I knew, like I said, I cannot go the routes of what I was seeing with the hypnotism or the people that I only want you if you're financially successful. No, I can't do that. I need this to be a starting line of what I can eventually be. Because I also knew there's a negative to this. If this doesn't work, Brad, and the matter escalates, there might be rehab involved. There might be AA, right? It could escalate itself. So I knew I had to conquer it. And I knew therapist wasn't going to be the way. I knew these options I just told you about weren't going to be the way. So when I joined, I said, all right, I'm going to put my words out there first. Before I shared, I put my words out there in the app first, right? I did that. I felt better. Then I started sharing more. It was a gradual sharing more, right? I think the first time I introduced myself, yeah, hi, I'm Shaz. I'm trying to struggle with this alcohol thing. And I just like put myself on mute and I listen. But then you gradually, you'll get there. You'll get on camera. As I said, I truly believe if you're able to get on camera, share, because you're just going to feel better, which I love when people share when they're on camera, is I get to see the transformation of how they share, right? The shares go from like 10, 15 seconds to goes to minutes. And then you see like the physical changes in their faces, like all of that. It makes me, I'm what, 1+ year now. That's like is when I see these faces that come on, they turn their camera on.
Yeah, beautiful, man. I always take away too from a lot of the shares, and connections that we've had too about, your wife mentioning to you. I mean, you did say before on a nightly basis, kind of before you go to bed, like, I'm so proud of you. I mean, how important and how much of an impact has that shift made in your life and helped you stay on track?
Man, I didn't want to cry. Gosh, that emotion's gonna come. All right. So when you take on sobriety, you're taking it on from a selfish perspective. I want to make it very clear. To become sober, to get to being sober, you have to be selfish. You have to put yourself first. That is the truth, because the only way a person can change is if they put themselves first. But once you accomplish or conquer or start your journey, that selfish act will be the most selfless thing you've ever done in your life. Because what this has done for me, Brad, is my wife now, every night, even last night, she thanked me for doing this. Like, I'm like, okay. And then your kids are going to be affected. My two beautiful girls are not going to see a drunk daddy in their life again. And guess what? When they go out to go see their future husband, their future partner, they're going to be like, okay, I want to get, usually it's they want to have the same traits they see in a father. And they're not going to see that. My hope is that that's what doesn't happen with them, because they have not seen a drunk daddy. So yes, absolutely. Her saying thank you is absolutely fuel. But I sometimes am like, man, the effect you have on everyone, my mother, my in-laws, my wife, my kids, my uncles, like everyone now does not need to worry about what Shaz will show up to a party. What Shaz will show up when we need him to. They know they have a clear minded human versus the example I was providing before.
Yeah, beautiful, man. So true. I mean, the way you drew that up was incredible. One thing that I'm kind of wondering, man, heading towards wrapping up, the why of all of this. You know, why do you feel, or can you put a finger on it, that alcohol checked the boxes for you to maybe feel more comfortable or less stress or anything, even like in the earlier days too?
Yeah, yeah. I'll say in the earlier days, it was to fit in with the crowd because a lot of my friends were drinking, right? That was like the why before. But then what that quickly turned into was, man, this makes me feel good when I have a problem. If I have stress, this helps me, right? Like, I mean, let's be real about one thing, okay? Alcohol does what it's supposed to do. It does. If you are stressed, it will help you with the stress amount, but it's not going to solve your problems. Your problems will still be there the next day. That's a little dirty secret that I don't think people know. Actually, I know people know, but they don't want to admit it. Is yeah, I have a nice little credit card statement in front of me and I have to pay that bill. Man, I'm stressed. Time to go drink. You will feel better, but that bill is still there. That statement is still there. You still have to pay that statement, right? So that eventually was life on life's terms. Was maybe it'll help me smooth it out, right? Maybe life won't be as bumpy with alcohol, Brad. Maybe life will be a smoother road. And boy, was I wrong. That was definitely not the case. But that being said, I could tell you today that there's not a single why for me to go back to drinking, because what sobriety has given me is I'm 100% powerless over it after the first drink. I cannot control it if it goes the second, third, fourth, and fifth, or whatever not. But what sobriety has given me is I can say no to that first drink. And then the data tells me if I say no to the first drink, 100% of the time, there won't be a second drink.
Yeah, which is, I mean, beautiful how how you can shift, right? For so many years, kind of, relying on alcohol. I mean, I think that that's what takes place over time, is that it just checks the box here, you rely on it there, and you rely on it there. And that's where I see a lot of people that are in this drinking stage, right? Call it gray area, call it high functioning, is that you never know when that's going to flip. Like, you never know when you're going to go from things being all right-ish externally to them being completely different. Shaz, what do you got for anybody who, can relate to your story, which I feel there would be a lot of people. What would you mention to them, man, if they're starting out, if they're dealing with a few things, as they kind of work through this and figure it out?
I'll say the same thing I say to any new member that joins the community. I will always say that if you are sober curious, congratulations, that is the right first step. You need to be sober curious. That's what I did. And when you join the community, I also want to say congratulations on making the greatest decision of your life. Becoming sober was without a doubt the hardest thing I ever had to do. And even my 1 year sobriety date, I celebrated that harder than I celebrated any birthday of mine. Because what you are going to do is hard. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I will say something. The data and the stats are against you succeeding. They are against you because society we live in normalizes drinking, normalizes alcohol. So the data and the stats are going to be against you, and it's going to be a heavy burden. But the one thing you can control is just do not drink today. That will lead to another day, and just keep showing up. That is the way you will find, in my opinion, the greatest journey and, in my opinion, the greatest accomplishment of your life. Today, I can tell you I found happiness, success, all that stuff is here. But there's one aspect that I need to do is I need to keep showing up. And yeah, that's all I can tell people, Brett.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's just a beautiful example. I mean, if we look at other areas, and I mentioned this in the meetings at times, I mean, if somebody's going to the gym and you look in the mirror and you say, oh yeah, I'm looking good now. You don't just stop going to the gym because you've reached your goal. And if you do, then you would realize, okay, it's probably not going to continue. There's that weird thing with sobriety and alcohol-free journey for a lot of people is when they hit a certain spot, it's like, okay, let me stop doing what got me here, which is so interesting. But if you just like you do, I mean, you commit, 5-6 hours a week to show up, to get all of these benefits that we've talked about in your life. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
And you literally, I think you are somewhere in my house because that conversation happened with my wife and I last week. She literally, I was listening to a meeting on speaker and she said to me, she's like, you got this sobriety thing down. Do you have to keep listening to these meetings? She literally asked that question. And my response to her was like, are you and I going to stop going to the gym now that we're healthy? Yeah, let's just stop. No, you're not. I'm like, it's routine, discipline, structure. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see what I put that down as. Routine, discipline, structure, you can make that formula any way. Sobriety is no different. You need to have the routine, the discipline, and the structure. If you're not able to make it to meetings, perfectly fine. Post in the app. You'll feel better after you post.
Yeah, awesome, man. Anything for closing? Any other thoughts that we missed that you wanted to share?
You can label it whatever you want. I know you said my labels. Was I a social drinker? Sure. Was I a binge drinker? Sure. Was I a gray area drinker? Sure. Was there alcoholism in my family? Sure. Was I an alcoholic? Sure. What you cannot, you label it whatever you want. What I know is 100% yes is I had a thing. I had a problem with alcohol. And this is how I conquered it. Everyone goes their own route, but handle it the way you need to. But what I always say is like-minded individuals in a community. The opposite of addiction is connection. Please listen to that. That's the one thing I also want to this.
Yeah. And I love that too. I mean, how many times do we get hung up on how to label something before we do anything about it? I feel like we do it. Like, I think looking back at your entire story there, as you go through it, the blinders are on, right? You don't realize how destructive it is. You don't realize what exactly is going on. And I'm sure as you're going through it here now, it's like, we can look back and say, come on, man, it's clear as day. Like that this was not heading anywhere, where we wanted to be in life. But I think that really comes down to this, like, do you believe your life would be better without alcohol? If the answer to that is yes, then it's time to do something about it. You don't need to score high on a questionnaire on Google. You don't need to ask everybody around you to see what, they think. Like, I think we feel like our life is going to be better and we're going to live with more purpose and in connection, then that's all that really matters. But people, man, they spin their tires, dude. Like, I was there. You probably were there. Like, what is this, man? What's going on? Like, do I qualify for this, or am I bad enough for that? Or, I mean, look at Johnny over there. Like, he's lost it all. I mean, his wife left him. Of course he's got a problem, but not me. And that can keep us stuck. So good mention.
Please do not ask Google or Chat GPT if you have an alcohol problem. Just send a message to somebody on Instagram. That's fine. Those quizzes were just I don't want to think about those quizzes anymore.
Well, the problem is we usually aren't honest with the quiz.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the second part.
I mean, I think if somebody is at that spot, I don't know everything, far from it, but I think if somebody is at that spot, it's something to look at, man, because if you look at other serious addictions out there, gambling and food and all the other stuff, like, I've never questioned whether I've got a problem with gambling. I'll get 2 scratch tickets a year. I'll take my grandmother to the casino, but I have never been like, let me Google, and sometimes, Shaz, I'll go overboard. I'll say my budget's 200 and I'll spend 5, but I leave it there. I don't feel shame about it. The next day, my life just goes on. And I've never thought about like, hey, do I have a problem with this or with that? So I think if there's that sort of internal nudge, like, man, it's something to really, really look at.
In the act of addiction, that nudge, let's be honest, we kind of just wipe it off, right? We're like, oh no, it's going to be okay, right? So you kind of wipe it off. I would agree with you. If you are starting to have those thoughts of anything you might have, alcohol is the reason why we're speaking today, you should probably dig a little bit deeper and find yourself a community. I would agree.
Yeah, 100%. Shaz, great to connect today, man. Thanks so much for sharing with us on the podcast.
Thank you, Brad, for everything you've done for me, man. I will talk to you soon. Thanks, man.
Well, there it is. Another incredible episode here on the podcast. Huge shout out to Shaz for jumping on here and sharing a story. I did share in the episode. I never could have ever guessed a day where him and I would be connecting on the podcast, especially reflecting back to when we first met and a couple other times after that. So incredibly proud of him. Incredible dude. Been a real treat, man. A real pleasure just to see all the evolution over the last year, a little bit over a year for him. Anything in Shaz's story that you relate to? Really wondering that. Drop a comment on Spotify if you're there, if you feel there's any similarities to your journey that you've been through. And like I said kind of in the intro, I mean, this is where I see a lot of people struggle. And I mean, the truth is, how long can you carry this on for? I don't know. For some people, they might be able to carry it on for a bit. I think it's almost kind of like, without taking risk in life, have you actually lived if you just played it safe all the way through? And I think that a lot of people, they carry on drinking until the end of their time. But did they actually live, like, to go through life and experience it in a way that they weren't escaping or numbing or distracting themselves from the ups and downs of life, which are difficult at times, but maybe what make it beautiful is that everything doesn't always work out. I mean, I think that that's kind of our wish at times, is that, oh my gosh, I wish everything worked out, but how kind of boring of a life would that be without some ups and downs and some challenges along the way? This was just a great story to hear, and I think a great place to kick off in 2026. I've been a little bit sick. We had the holidays with the kids, and everybody was kind of busy, so recording podcasts just wasn't, front and center for everything, which was good. It was a nice break, and I'm excited to get back to things. Shaz is an incredible contributor to the sober motivation community, and for anybody, looking into 2026 to make changes, doesn't have to be the sober motivation community, but make some friends out there. Like, make this real for yourself. Enough of the secrets, enough of just doing it halfway and then telling yourself it didn't work. And I mean, this is it. This is the year where your whole life can turn around. I mean, you see what a year did for Shaz, and he doesn't have an overly unique success story of this working out and how many changes that come into our life. So if you make the changes, you can experience good things as well. And you deserve good things. And you deserve to show up authentically you. So thank you as always for listening. If you haven't left a review on Apple or Spotify, let's start off the year on the right foot. Drop some 5 stars and I'll see you on the next one.